They don't know you. They've never met you. They don't know where you live, where you work, who you share your life with. They don't know what you watch on TV, how many pets you have, what you do at the weekend, what team you support. But what they do know is that they are willing to fight for you and for all of us, because they have chosen to protect your way of life, no matter the cost.
Good morning, BSM. To those of you gathered here in the Bayanihan Hall, and to those of you watching in other venues across the school. We gather this morning for a Remembrance Day Assembly. Remembrance Day, held every year at the 11th hour of the 11th day and the 11th month, marks the signing of the armistice in 1918 and the end of the First World War. It remains a day of collective memory, particularly in Commonwealth countries. On Remembrance Day, at assemblies and gatherings just like this around the world, we gather to remember and to commemorate the bravery of the men and women who fought for peace, freedom, and democracy. We remember those who gave their lives and those too who survived, soldiers and civilians. You will have seen in the opening video that the ravages of World War I on the battlefields left them stark and desolate. Nothing could survive. Nothing could grow there. However, when the war ended, poppies started to grow in those ravaged fields, a reminder of a red symbol of hope for mankind. And this is why we wear poppies as a symbol of remembrance on this Remembrance Day. Remembering makes us hopeful, hopeful that things can be better, hopeful that we will not make the same mistakes again. Through collective memory and shared efforts, we can embrace peace. Each year at these Remembrance Day ceremonies on the 11th of November, the last post is played on a trumpet or a bugle, and we pay our respects with a minute's silence. The last post is played as a tradition at military funerals and commemorative services like this today. In a moment, I will ask you all to stand quietly and invite our very own Boyat Sabas to come forward and first of all play the last post. After that minute's silence, he will then play again the reveille. Can I ask you all please to stand quietly? Thank you, Mr. Sabas. You may be seated. I'm very pleased now to hand over to our head students, Matthew and Sarah.
Good morning, BSM. Remembrance Day is used to acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of those who serve their country and acknowledge our responsibility as global citizens to work for the peace that these people fought so hard to achieve. Aside from the soldiers who we typically associate with the war, millions of children also experience the horrors of the war. Today, two members of the SSLT, Mika Lim and Rainy Nakpil, will be reading two stories that were told by children who survived the war.
Six-year-old Judy Rhodes and her younger sister lived about 10 miles away from Pearl Harbor. She said, because of the fear of another attack, thousands of wives and children were shipped out of Hawaii on military troop ships. In April 1942, Mom, my little sister, and I were among hundreds of mothers and children evacuated to the safety of mainland America. We traveled in a convoy encircled by a protective military escort of submarines, armed soldiers, and warships. It was horrible to say goodbye to Daddy, not knowing when we would be together again.
15-year-old Hedy Wachenheimer was now living in London with the Foster family. The Red Cross delivered messages between Hedy in England and her imprisoned parents. She remembers, "In my mother's postcard, dated September 4, 1942, she wrote she was traveling to the east. She is saying her final goodbye to me. There was no return address. She urged me to be brave, hold my head up high, never lose my courage, and to remember my parents. I later learned both my parents were deported to Auschwitz, the death camp. I never heard from them again."
These anecdotes enable us to perceive the war through the eyes of the children who survived the bombings, blackouts, hunger, fear, and loss of loved ones caused by the war. The positioning of the youth in a society has a bearing on their leadership potential and their role in peace building. Rather than being alienated, the youth should be and are increasingly being seen as key agents of social change, innovation, and development. They are the ones who can make a difference in society by forming a sustainable foundation of peace and harmony, whether it is by changing their perspective towards the world or initiating various projects to advocate for peace and freedom at a national or international level.
As the SSLT, we hope that we've been able and will continue to act as positive role models, and we hope that we have encouraged you to enact this type of positive change within our society. World peace and freedom is something that cannot be achieved overnight, and I believe that it is our responsibility to work as a collective unit for a sustained period of time to be able to make significant progress towards our collective goal of a more peaceful world. Thank you.
Thank you, students, for helping us to understand further how war and conflict affect young people around the world. When people think about remembrance, they think of lots of different things: war, peace, soldiers, heroes, freedom, and hope, to name just a few. The poppy and the bugle are two symbols that we often see and are talked around Remembrance Time. The bugle is a brass instrument. It's the instrument that traditionally plays the last post, which you heard just a few moments ago. It's an interesting instrument. It has no valves or other mechanisms, and the only way the player can control the pitch is by changing the shape of their lips. A bugle call is a short tune originating from military signals announcing events at military camps, on battlefields, and in ships. Historically, bugles, drums, and other loud instruments were used for communication in the noise and confusion of a battlefield. Today, the bugle call and the last post are signs of respect and call for everyone to remember. The poppy is another symbol we associate with Remembrance Day and the month of November. When the First World War ended, poppies grew in the fields where some of the worst conflicts took place. Artificial poppies were first sold in the UK in 1921 to raise money to support ex-soldiers and their families, those who had died in conflicts. Selling poppies proved so popular that in 1922 the British Legion founded a factory to provide employment for disabled servicemen after the First World War, and to this day the factory continues to operate. The poppy is a symbol of hope, a symbol that beautiful things can grow when there is peace. We now have 2 poems read by Jade, Anechka and Tamiko.
Poppies. A poem for Remembrance Day. Fields are full of poppies that billow to and fro, dancing around in the wind, almost marching in a row. The pure beauty of the poppies is a sight to behold. Wild and free and full of life, vivid scarlet, shining bold. They brighten up the land with the scene that will not last. How little do they know of the dark sorrows of the past. In the yard the petals fall, like those now sadly gone. We let them go silently, one by one. Petals like torn red ribbons lay strewn across the ground. Bring back the old memories of soldiers lost, soldiers found. They help us to remember the people here before, and not forget those who fell, tragic losses of the war.
Heroes. A poem for Remembrance Day. Soldiers, peaceful, brave ghosts, remember in silence, wearing poppies to show respect. Heroes. Recall. Many thousands now forever fallen, respected, never forgotten. Heroes. Bugle. Last post, call to sleeping memorials. We're sorry, brothers and fathers. Heroes.
We gather here today to remember the fallen and to ensure that we do not forget their sacrifices. We also honour their sacrifices by accepting our responsibility individually and collectively, and to do all we can to make our world more peaceful, sustainable, and fair. We are grateful for the beautiful readings from Tomiko, Anechka, and Jade in years 5 and 6, and to Eunice for her poignant recital. Also to our SSLT, to Matthew, Sarah, Michaela, and Rainey for their wonderful reflections on this important day. We will also hear experiences from our adult community, sharing reflections on a life of military service. As a community, we remain committed to developing positive global citizens who are willing and able to make a positive contribution to our world. In part, this is achieved by cultivating a sense of social responsibility and displaying virtues such as solidarity, kindness, and compassion. This is further supported by creating opportunities for students to develop knowledge, skills, and understanding, and transfer their learning beyond the classroom to the wider world. And I'm proud to say there is much cause for optimism within our BSM community. One only has to look at the extent of student-led after-school activities where individuals and teams are turning learning into action. Initiatives that are values-driven, that are having a profound impact on the lives of many. We remain committed to empowering our students to engage with and address some of the most critical global issues. And there is no finer example of this than with the model United Nations.
Good morning, BSM. MUN is an ASA in which students attempt to solve real-world issues with the policies and perspective of an assigned country. Through this simulation, we aim to understand the United Nations, educating participants about world issues, and promoting peace through cooperation. I know so many students who are scared to speak at their first conference. MUN gives students the chance to develop confidence and leadership skills through experience. Model United Nations conferences are opportunities to practice research, public speaking, teamwork, negotiation, and writing skills. There are many world issues international organizations and governments work on. Some of the most pressing issues are those related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, like climate change, poverty, human rights, peace and security. The International Paris Agreement Treaty, adopted by 196 parties at the COP21 in Paris, that was also rejoined by the US last February last year, and the ongoing 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt are fine examples of nations' never-ending goal to implement solutions to protect the planet. It is with these actions that not just the United Nations, but we see the continued efforts of all the countries around the world to strive to solve global issues together. Moreover, the recent war in Ukraine and the continued civil war in Myanmar are examples of current conflicts that leaders may focus on resolving. The United Nations plays a major role in the creation of peace treaties, where member states seek to limit and control behavior during wartime in these areas. Through diplomacy and support of different nations, we hope to see a peaceful end to these disputes around the world. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ms. Lynn Cabunok Amante, married to retired Brigadier General Jerry Amante of the Philippine Army. He retired from the military service in 2017 after 37 years of service. I would like to share our experiences and thoughts as a family of a serviceman. We were married in 1992 after his long stint in Mindanao at the height of the communist insurgency, where he was assigned in a unit that was the maneuver force in the army at the time. I thought I was the love of his life. I learned later on that I and our family would only come second. His love for his country comes first. He would be on mission in various places in the country and abroad, leaving me to take care of everything at the homestead. I was tasked to protect our family while he was out with his unit trying to save other people's lives. I have long accepted that holidays and personal occasions are only for civilian families, since the military would declare a red alert status on such dates to ensure peace and order. Once, he was able to join us, but he was on the phone most of the time, making sure that the troops in Marawi are well supported, as war was brewing there at the time. There were places that we cannot just travel to, as his mere presence would mean endangering all of us. To compensate, he would bring our little children to his office when he was on duty and pretend that they were on a camping trip, which my children enjoyed, oblivious of the danger around them. To them, they would always be safe when their dad was around. Being a military wife helped me develop strength, resilience, fortitude, and most of all, love for country. And I am sure my children had it in them by now as well. Here in Manila, we seem to enjoy peace and freedom of movement. We are unaware that there are still areas in the Philippines currently in conflict. The peace we enjoy, we owe to the men and women in uniform, soldiers who are deployed to far-flung provinces, preventing insurgents from wreaking havoc in the cities, soldiers going through a continuing stress brought about by near-death experiences, the loss of their comrades, and being away from their families. Having said that, I would like to close by quoting a famous French general and statesman who described the life of a military professional. It is entitled On Military Professionalism by General Charles de Gaulle, and I quote, "Men who adopt the profession of arms submit to their own free will to a law of perpetual constraints of their own accord. They resist their right to live where they choose, to say what they think, to dress as they like. From the moment they become soldiers, it needs but an order to settle from this place to move them to that, to separate them from their families and dislocate their normal lives. In a word of command, they must rise, march, run, endure bad weather, go without sleep or food, be isolated in some distant post, work until they drop. They have ceased to be the master of their own fate. If they drop in tracks, if their ashes scattered in the four winds, that is all, part and parcel of their job," unquote.
For the Fallen by Lawrence Binion. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn the drums thrill, death, august and royal, sing sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and the glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle, they were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labor of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land, they are known as the stars are known to the night. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end, they remain.
Thank you, Clara. As you now know, today at this remembrance service and services like this around the world, we remember those who have fallen. But it seems that the lessons of war and of conflict have still not been learned. There are wars and conflicts going on around the world right now. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, there are 27 armed conflicts ongoing in places like the Ukraine, Syria, Yemen, Myanmar, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mali, Somalia. There are terrified civilians living in horrifying conditions. And here we sit, so lucky to live in a safe and privileged environment where we have abundant resources, water, food. We have families and friends around us who give us love and support. And we live in clean and safe environments. We have access to hospitals, community barangay services, great schooling, and a truly safe environment. There are so many places in the world where children do not go to school, where they live in fear and without basic necessities. So while we remember those who have fallen in wars gone by, wars that have gone before this time, let us honor and respect the memory of those who sacrificed in those wars by striving now to make the world a better place for everyone to live in. Nelson Mandela said in addressing the Global Convention on Peace and Nonviolence back in 2004, he said the following: "Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is the creation of an environment where all can flourish, regardless of race, creed, religion, gender, class, caste, or any other social markers of difference." He goes on to say, "Human beings will always be able to find arguments for confrontation and no compromise. We humans are, however, beings capable of reason, compassion, and change. May this be the century of compassion, peace, and non-violence. Here in this region where you meet, in all the conflict-ridden parts of the world, and on our planet universally." We live in challenging times, but as Mr. Healy says, there is optimism, because I see here and across our school and community optimism for resilience and hope. I see that we are inspired by those who fell, and we can uphold the cause of freedom. We will continue to strive for freedom, and in the actions that we see driven by you students, we do make a difference in the world. We must continue to work towards peace and hope across the world. We must continue to strive to be instruments of peace and freedom. We will continue to work towards being positive global citizens, equipped with the skills, understanding, and values to be able and willing to contribute to our world. At BSM, we have in spades the community spirit in our students, embedded in our core values of respect, integrity, and kindness. In those, we can make a difference and stand for peace and a common vision, in a positive world for all. You BSM students are our beacons of hope for the future. Your deeds, your actions, and your words do make a difference every single day. Thank you for those. thank you for your positive outlook and the contribution you make towards a positive world every day. Let's do that together and ensure that our words, our actions, and deeds are positive. To all of our contributors today, a very big thank you. And to those of you here in the Bayanihan Hall, thank you for your positive response to today's assembly. The way that you have responded and taken this as seriously as you have is very meaningful. Thank you very much.